Hey guys, how you doing? Ron's the Nut here. Well, today I've got a new review for you. This is from CASELABS. They were kind enough to send me one of the new Mercury S8 test benches. Now this is based on the Mercury S8 case, and it has a lot of the same features and options. However, it is outfitted for an open air test bench, but again with many of the same water cooling features and awesome construction that you normally find in a CASELABS case. So let's take a closer look at it, some of the options, and then we'll put some pieces in it, see how it goes together. Let's have a look. So here we have the Mercury S8 test bench. It is based on the Mercury S8 case. Like I said, however, it is open air so that you can easily mount and remove your components from your system. The Mercury S8 test bench, just like all of the Mercury and CASELAB cases, feature all aluminum construction. They have the flex bay system, and I'll talk more about that. The accessory mounting system that you use in the flex bay system, and we also have in this particular case a removable horizontal motherboard plate, and we'll get a closer look at that. There are quick release exterior features, and just to give you a quick view of that, basically this is a nice finished front plate, and in order to access and remove your devices from the front, you just pop off this front panel, and this front panel is held in place by these little nipples, these beads, and then they mount into this unique mounting system right here. So all you need to do is line up the pins and you snap it in. And of course, the quick release, you just pop these off, and you can access now, remove these screws to be able to remove any of your flex bay devices that you would have in here. And it also provides complete access to the front I/O panel there as well. Now the dimensions of the test bench is 13 inches high by 14.5 inches wide by 19.03 inches deep. And we do have, there's space for the drive base, and we'll show you that as we go through this. And the form factors for the motherboards that you can get here will support either an ATX version motherboard tray, which will have some limited eATX sizes that it could accommodate. Basically can't exceed more than about 12 by 10.75 inches. But there is also the SSI EEB, which is the version that will support, server style motherboard sizes and your full eATX, which are typically 12 by 13 inches. And then of course we'll handle ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX as well. All right, the expansion slots, it holds 8 flex bays. You can get 6 flex bay devices in here. Those are 6 5.25 inch flex bays. And then hard disks, the standard capacity is 4 to 6 with 18 maximum. Standard SSDs you can mount in this are 0 to 4. And of course, if you have Velcro, you can pretty much put them anywhere you want. And the maximum radiator mounts that you can mount into this case is a 120 by 3 or 360. And you need special mounts to do that, and I have a few of those to show you. And there is a space for a power supply. And this, as it stands right now, overall weighs 8 pounds. That's just the overall technical description of the Mercury S8 test bench. And now what we'll do is we'll get into more detail on each of those as we go around the case. Now some of the options for this case when ordering, the first one we'll talk about are colors. Now you can get this test bench in black, primer gray, white, and gunmetal gray. And then actually that's the color that you see now. That's relatively new for CASELABS. They have experimented with various other types of colors, but right now for the S8 test bench, like I said, black, primer gray, white, and gunmetal gray. Now you can get it in two-tone. You can get a black and white two-tone. You can get a black and primer gray two-tone. You can get a black and gunmetal gray two-tone. You can get a white and primer gray two-tone. You can get a white and gunmetal gray two-tone. And you can get a gunmetal and primer gray two-tones. So that's those are the options you have for colors. And it's very easy. If you go to the CASELABS website, they have a very easy drop-down menu system that give you the options you can select along with the pricing for those. And again, it's very straightforward, and you really can't go wrong with orient. And that's not just for the colors, it's for all of the options for this, for the test bench. Okay, well, let's get a little more familiar with the S8 test bench, and we're going to take a look at the front panel right now. So the very front panel, as you see, has a space for a 120 millimeter fan venting that is all part of the front grille, so there's no piece or removable piece there. And then here we have the flex space system, which is a radiator mount and or doubles as a fan mount, where you could put a couple of 120 millimeter fans along with the radiator, and I'll show you how that goes together. And then we also have this front I/O panel, and you notice this front I/O panel has a power switch, a reset switch. These are Vandal LED style switches, and they also have audio, microphone and speaker or headphone, and then two sets of USB 3.0. Now, in order to access those, what you do is you'll remove the front panel by just popping out a corner. And again, with the special mounting system they have, they come out very easy. And actually, you receive a number of extra ones of these. There's an accessory kit that CASELABS provides that has more of these in case you would ever need them. And also some of the same pieces there. So what we're going to look at here first is some of the options for your front I/O. This is the option that has all power reset, and these are Vandal style LED switches. Power reset, two sets of USB 3.0, and the speaker slash headphone and microphone. Now you can get just only power switch only on this panel. So this is an adapter panel that comes off of here. So you'll be wiring just your power switch only. And you can get one that is power and reset only. All right. And then you can also get one that is power, microphone slash and headphone slash speaker and USB 3.0. So it's almost identical to the one I have installed right now. The only difference is it doesn't have the reset switch. So those are all options that you can get with the S8 test bench. Now what we'll do is, and obviously these can be removed easily, and the whole wiring harness is easily detachable, and there are basically those front plates are secured by these two screws. So there's there's some nuts that would be placed on the other side to mount it to the bracket. Now over here we have the flex space system, and the flex space system here allows you to, I'll take these out, allows you to easily mount various drives, fan controllers, basically any 5¼ inch device in the front bay areas here. So for a test bench, you might want to have a fan controller permanently mounted in there. Certainly, if you're still using DVDs or CDs to load some of your software, you can do that. I mean, basically, you name it, whatever it is your configuration requires. Okay, so the flex bay, as you can see, was held in place by, I think it was about 8 of these. These are Phillips head thumb screws that secured them in there. And basically this flex bay is designed to house, mount a couple of fans and a 120 by 2 radiator. Now, it does not remove from the front. They actually come in from behind. And as you can see, there are some isolation mounts to keep vibration down, and there's through points where you can screw in what I'm going to show you from behind, you'll see all these studs right here are what aligns the radiator mount to be held in place. So all we did really is just lined it up and pressed it in, and so now that's in place. And then from the front we came through with those thumb screws. But to show you how the flex base system works, we're just going to remove that. We'll get this back in place here. Now this particular system, as I requested it from CASELABS, has the 120 radiator mount, so I can show you that we can mount those right here in the front bay if you elect to do so. But you can also buy, I happen to have this from a different case build, but this is part of their flex base system, and you can buy, this would mount one fan, and you can actually, have just one 120 mount fan in there, and then down here you can have a DVD player mounted, which is one of the things that I'll probably do. And then you can also mount, up to 2 more in this space. So basically, up to 6 5¼ inch devices can be mounted in the front of the S8 test bench. And this one happens to use 3, and then this would leave me room for 2 more devices in here, or 2 and a filler plate, or a couple of filler plates if you want. So what we're going to do here right now is show you that they do provide various types of mounting. You get 4 of these. These are basically L brackets that are designed to mount onto the side of your 5¼ inch devices. So you can see right here, they have one bracket mounted here. Now this one lines up, I could put 4 screws. They also provide the M3 screws that you need for this. And so I have those mounted on here. And again, what I'm going to do is put the drive in through the rear. It aligns up with the pins that you saw, the studs that are there, and then you would secure it using a couple of screws, those thumb screws that we have here. So I'll just go ahead and secure that in here now. And then I would put one on this side. So that's how you would mount a 5¼ inch device. Now this is a full depth device, as you can see, a DVD CD reader. But you can also, if you have a fan controller, they typically are not the full length or depth, so they provide a set of small ones that you can, they're not full length, so you can just mount it to your fan controller and then mount your fan controller into the bay. Or any other, half length drive that you might want. And again, they do provide screws for you, so they give you what you need to mount them, and also they provide both metric and standard. There's some 632 screws. All right, now what I'm going to do here next is show you how to mount a radiator onto here along with some fans. So let me show you that in a second. Now, in order to mount a 120x2 radiator, you're going to use, this is the 120x2 Mac accessory that allows you to mount that. Basically, it's designed with a clamshell design. There are 3 screws on this side and 3 on this side, which will separate this front vent panel from the fan and radiator mounting bracket piece. So what we'll do is remove the screws, mount the fans and the radiator to this back plate, and then we'll put it back together and screw them in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then I'll show you once we get ready to assemble it. Okay, with the screws removed, I can then remove the front vent panel from it. And then what we have now is the spacing to mount our fans. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple in here. Remember, the vent mounts to the front, so air intake, if you want it, in this particular case is what I want, so air will be coming through this way. And I will take a couple of fans, and I will line them up over the 120 mounting points for the fans. Okay, those are all here. And then what I'm going to do is, once I have these fans lined up, I'm going to take my radiator And I have the radiator here. This is an XSPC AX240. And I'm going to line those up as well, right over the 120 mounts. Okay, so I have them lined up, and then what we'll do is I'll take the screws that are designed the right length for this and bring it all the way through, so it'll go through the fan, through the bracket, and then into the radiator. And that's the sandwich that we'll create to create a push configuration on this assembly. And then certainly you could make it pull if you like by actually mounting fans on the other side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble this together so you can see what it looks like. Okay, here we have the fans assembled onto the flex bay, the 120 by 2, and the screws mounted through the mounting point right into the this 240 rad. So we have it assembled, and what I'm going to do now is mount the cover tray to it. And here we have the completed assembly now with the 2 fans mounted into the 120 by 2 flex bay assembly, and the radiator mounted on the back. 240 millimeter radiator. And now what we'll do now is just drop it into place, line it up, and then you just press it into the pins. And then in order to secure it, you know, you would use your 6 or however many of the thumb screws, Phillips head thumb screws, in order to secure it in place. I'm just going to tack it in with 2 right now. And there we have it. We have a 240 millimeter radiator in a push configuration right now. And back here, it gives you plenty of room to add your fittings and your tubing. And there is enough space given here. And this is what the SSI EEB motherboard tray. So this is even longer. And you can see you can fit another set of fans there if you wanted to do push-pull in the front there. So again, that is a configuration that allows you to mount a 240 rad there. You can also do a 120 if you really wanted to in this setup. You could put a fan in here and mount the rad to that. And then again, as I showed you, there are plates that allow you to mount full-length 5¼ inch devices. And then they also provide a set of short mounts, so that you can mount a fan controller or some other device that is not full length in there as well. Okay, now let's look at the motherboard tray on the S8 test bench. There are 2 versions of the motherboard tray. There is an ATX, which is shorter than this, does not have these cable pass-throughs. And we also have the SSI EEB, which is stands for Server System Infrastructure Enterprise Electronics Bay. That's what SSI EEB, and basically the bottom line is the length of the motherboards is different. For SSI, many of them are dual processor motherboards, so you have more real estate. So 12 by 13 inch motherboard sizes are accommodated, and it also will take standard ATX as well, micro ATX and mini ATX. So let's take a look here. In order to remove the motherboard tray, we have 4 screws. I've already loosen them up. Now that we have the motherboard screws removed, I can remove the tray. Okay, so I removed the tray and took the bench off the table so we can get a closer look at it. You can see here on the top there are all these threaded inserts so that you can install your standoffs, which come with the accessories from CASELABS. So we have a bag of motherboard standoff kit, 15 of them, and also some screws here. And those screws, of course, would be to secure your motherboard into the standoffs. Now, you notice here you have a couple of feed-throughs. So the way this was installed in the case, your motherboard would be sitting here. This is typically where your power connection would be to your motherboard, so it's for your power supply connection. And then, of course, this side here would be for your SATA connections to your motherboard. Now, again, this is the SSI EEB version of the motherboard tray. and the one that is just ATX is cut off about here. It does not have these, so your cabling would just come up from inside of the S8 test bench. Now you'll notice here we have a cutout through, so you know, mounting plates and various types of coolers is not a problem. And over here you'll see a couple of, again, thumb screws, Phillips thumb screws, and you notice they're the same style that's used throughout the front of the case and all around the case. I'm going to go ahead and remove them. And what this uncovers underneath here is another tray. The back pieces are held in place by two studs right here. And this just sits in and then screws in the front. And basically what you have here is a hard drive and SSD tray. Now this will accommodate 1, 2, 3, 4 SSDs, or it'll accommodate 2 hard drives, and so or a combination of both. So here I have a hard drive, and the mounting points right here allow you to install the hard drive with room for the SATA cables and the SATA data and the SATA power to come up. And so here I'll line it up so you can actually see they do align, and I'll go ahead and secure it as well. And we have the hard drive now mounted, and you have the pass-throughs to get to your data and power connections coming through from the drive up through the motherboard tray. So this will be installed in the case like this. And of course you also can mount SSDs, so there are spots for 2 SSDs if you use a full 3.5-inch hard drive, or underneath that, as I showed you, there are spaces for 2 more SSDs. So let's go ahead and get an SSD mounted on the plate as well so you can see it configured. Now in order to mount an SSD, you just pick your position that you would like to mount it in, and I think I'm going to put it in that spot right there. And so what I'll do is I'll line it up just like we did with the hard drive. So we have the mounting points right here, and then the pass-through is open for accepting the SATA data and power cables. And these are actually the screws that came with the SSD drive that I'm using. Okay, so now we have an SSD mounted and a disk drive, and then what we'll do is go ahead and assemble it back onto the motherboard tray. So I'm just going to line the pinholes here, and then using 2 of the thumb screws, just secure the tray back to the top of the motherboard tray. Okay, so now that we have the motherboard tray mounted back onto the top of the case, you can secure it with 4 screws to hold the tray back on there, and then you would put in your standoffs depending on the motherboard orientation or size you have, SSI, EEB, or ATX, or micro ATX, or mini ATX. And the other thing to note, I thought of, remember your 8-pin EPS cable, they have a nice cutout set for you here so you can easily mount it to your motherboard. Many cases don't think about that, and you'll have to run it around the outside, or around the back of the motherboard, or you can snake it up through here. Is typically what you wind up doing, through the cutout, and then under the motherboard and over. Well, this one, they gave you a very nice cutout to make it much easier to do that. As well as if you needed to run any SATA cables through this way, you could actually probably do that too, but I think it would be easier just to come through and underneath. Alright, so that's the motherboard tray mounted to the case, with the couple of showing you, illustrating the hard drives and the SSD mounting feature from underneath this tray. Next up, while we have this available and off, let's look at the bottom of the case. and mounting a power supply. Now looking at this portion of the case, this is where we'll be mounting a power supply, but before we look at that, let's take a look at this filler panel right here. You'll see the ventilation panel here, and it actually has, looks like a 120 millimeter mounting point. So if you did want to mount a fan for whatever reason and not the power supply there, you could, or you could mount a fan underneath. Now, and that's kind of what I'm getting to, is under this side of the case, we do have a panel here that accommodates a 140 millimeter fan. You could fit a 140 millimeter fan in that spot right there. So that panel comes off. And the other thing to note too is that you can also get a pedestal for most all of the CASELABS cases, and this one is no exception. So a pedestal basically is just another portion of a case that's got a cavity. You can actually mount radiators and fans and hard drives or whatever you want. So if you did want to expand some of the capability or have a permanent capability for that, you remove this panel, and that would be a pass-through to access the space that would be in that pedestal. But as it is right here, right now, it's just a filler plate, but it does accommodate a 140 millimeter fan if you wanted to put one, take that plan all off and add some more ventilation in the case. Now also, over here, you'll see this plate, aside from the rectangles here that offer cable management and access to the other side where the hard drives would be. When you remove this plate, you have a point for adding more, another fan. So you can mount a 120 millimeter fan right here to actually add some cooling to the other side of the case. Now, when we get to that side, you'll find that it's set up for adding hard drives. So if there is a cage in that spot, that's one of the reasons you might want to do that, is to bring air through to that side of the case. Okay. Now, let's look at mounting a power supply in this spot. All right, now taking a look at the power supply. Adding a power supply to this S8 test bench is straightforward. Typical mounting, you can orient the power supply so the intake fan is on the bottom, and on the bottom you have the vent space to bring air through. And this particular power supply, an AX1200, is relatively long, and that's about 8 inches long. And you can see it's got plenty of space still to connect your cables and then route them through to this section or into the other lower section of the test bench. And there's about a ½ inch of clearance right here between there and the bottom as well, in case you needed to tuck any cabling or anything down below there. Have a look at the back now. You see the power supply installed standard fashion. Now having a look at the back of the S8 test bench, you see up top another handle, just like we had in the front here, mounted so that you can easily maneuver the case around. Your I/O panel mount and standard power supply mounting screws, so you can orient the power supply either way and secure it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vents for your PCI Express slots. They do not provide any covers for those. It's a test bench, so you'll be populating whatever you need, and it's going to be open air anyway. And then down at the bottom here we have a mount for a 120 millimeter fan or radiator if you wanted to start mounting anything like that on the outside of this bench. On this side of the S8 test bench, basically we have all of the cabling coming from the front I/O, depending on what configuration you had. This particular one has, about all audio, front panel audio, USB 3.0, and power and reset switch. So we have quite a bundle here. But as I showed you earlier, you can outfit those differently with everything as far as a few as just the power on switch. And actually they do offer a panel that has nothing. So if you wanted to configure your test bench by using, the little kits that you can get power directly off your motherboard, or if you have a motherboard that has a power on switch right on it, you may not even need it. So it depends on how you want to outfit it. So you have the flexibility with CASELABS to do that. So again, we have the cabling here. Then you'll notice, you see here, there is a mounting tray that has a couple of slots, with a bigger one and a smaller one, and that is to house these hard drive trays. These are hard drive bays right here that allow you to mount up to 4 hard drives in them. And I'll show you how they're mounted. So this particular configuration, as I received it, only has one, but you can get a second one here to house up to 8 3.5-inch hard drives in this area here. And again, you have the capability for fan, another 120 fan right in that spot if you remove that plate. And then on the back of the case, you saw there is that plate for another 120 millimeter fan, so you can get proper ventilation if you're going to stock up a bunch of hard drives in this setup here. So in order to remove, though, this hard drive bay, all you do is slide it towards you and then lift it out. And then I'll show you here, these are the mounting points that allow you to screw in these adapters. And basically it's a rubber grommet with a slot and a shoulder screw. And you just simply put them in there. You mount your hard drives inside of here, and I actually have a hard drive using the exact same setups, exact same mounting hardware, the shoulder screw with the slotted grommets, and you would then just slide them through one of the larger ones, have it oriented the same on both sides, and then just slide the hard drive down into place. And that's how you secure your hard drive. So they're shock mounted using the isolator that they have there, and again, you can get up to 4 of them in here. Then when you have your hard drives all mounted, you just drop them back down in here and then slide the tray over to secure it. And now you have your hard drive mounted, and you have your cable access. Depending on how you orient your hard drive, you can connect your cables here, and that's the way I have this particular hard drive mounted. But certainly there's space in the back. There's about an inch and a half of space that you can run cables behind and connect your power and data on that side as well. And then, as I said, if you did have another one, you can actually install it right here in the exact same way. There we go. So very flexible to be able to add a lot of capacity on 3.5-inch hard drives here. And if you are planning to use the hard drive, only a limited number, 1 or 2, underneath the motherboard tray, you can then remove this completely, and you can remove this plate under here by removing 4 screws. And then you have more ventilation, more air, and actually that is also prime real estate for adding a radiator. If you wanted to put a water cooling radiator there, basically a 240, you can mount that right over this space right here. So you have quite a bit of flexibility. You can mount pumps, whatever you want to use this space for. It's also very mod-friendly chassis, so you can mount whatever you like into it. So I went ahead and mounted a couple of 120 millimeter fans right there so that you can see how much space they take up. And inside here we have just about 155 millimeter of space, so you could easily put a slimline rad or even a 60 mil rad, or if you wanted to, an 80 mil rad in there, and you could get a push-pull on that if you wanted to do that. So in addition to just plenty of air cooling for this side of this case, you can begin to stack radiators in here if that's what you wanted to do. Now, speaking of radiators, this case does come with other options that allow you to mount radiators in probably more practical spaces for your test bench here. So let me get them out and we'll have a look at them. So far I showed you radiator mounting for the front flex bay area at 240 rad, and then also the capability to mount another 240 rad in the bottom in the hard drive bay area. Now, in addition to those radiator mounting possibilities, CASELABS also provides 2 additional radiator mounts that you could use on the test bench. Now these are 120 by 3, so you can get 3 fans, 3 120 millimeter fans, and up to 3 120 millimeter fans, and you know a 360 radiator on them. Both of these, and then the difference between the 2 is how you would mount them. This is an inside mount, and this allows you to mount your fans here, your radiator on the back side, and it would mount inside the side of the case, and I'll show you that in a second. And then this one here is an outside mount, and it actually just takes the full radiator and fans completely away from the case, being basically stand off from the case by the use of these brackets. So let me get the bench up here and we'll take a closer look to see how they would mount. Here we have the inside mount, 120 by 3. And again, I mentioned this allows you to mount the radiator the inside, toward the inside of the test bench. So for example, you could mount it and anywhere there are these pins located on the case. There are actually four sets of them. One here, one down here, and then the same on the other side. So basically, you would have that mounted here. Now, of course, depending on the motherboard that you have, you may not want to do that. So again, this just provides the flexibility to do this. And in order to secure it, all you would do is use the standard thumb screws that CASELABS provides. And you would just, again, this is the same thumb screw that you've seen used in the flex base and everywhere else. And basically, you would put it in. There are 4 points for it, but I'm just going to tack in 2 right now. So you would have your fans mounted here and the radiator on the inside here. And so with the external mount, you have the radiator completely off the case sitting outside it. So the radiator would be here and your fans would be here on either side of the radiator. And again, they simply secure with the same thumb screws that we use. They're Phillips head, and you also have a place to put your screwdriver through to secure them in there. I just tacked them in with my fingers from the inside here, but you get the idea. Now again, since this test bench has these points on either sides of the case, you're free to configure these in any way you want. You can mount them here. And just to give you an idea of the external mount, I actually mounted the radiator on the inside of that. So you get an idea of how much real estate you would lose, and it's not too much depending on the motherboard. Here's the motherboard tray mount. So if you don't have an EATX or a wide motherboard, you might have, if you have a standard ATX or a micro ATX, certainly you could use a radiator on the inside. So it's not just for mounting on the outside, and certainly you can get your fans on there as well. And so this can be flipped and mounted on the outside, so you're building it completely away from the case. So again, the CASELABS 120 by 3 external mount and the internal mount. So they just continue to give you ways to be able to cool your system, water cool it on the test bench. So here we have the Mercury S8 test bench, outfitted with a motherboard, a GPU, a couple of radiators, power supply, and a hard disk. And so let me take the camera off the tripod and give you just a quick look around to see how spacious this is and how easy it is to mount parts inside there. Now, I had taken you through the mounting of that 240 millimeter radiator. Here's a look from behind with it mounted using that flex bay and the adapter for mounting fans and the 240 rad. Here we have the Corsair 1200 with cables connected to it, and you can see there's still plenty of room over here and towards the back. Easy to feed through cables. On top here I have this is the Asus Rampage 4 Black Edition, and I'm going to be using that in a system build, and it will actually be tested here on this test bench, but for this purpose I just wanted to show you. That's an extended ATX motherboard. You can see there's still plenty of space along this side here. You can get all the cables you need to all your USB and power and switch ports without any problem. Nice feed through here, the grommeted area for those cables. Same thing for SATA cables. You can see they go right through here. I did not connect any right now. But you do see USB 3.0. Power cables coming up to the motherboard through the other grommeted area. And if you have the ATX motherboard tray, you don't get any of this space. The ATX motherboard tray ends about here, so there is no grommet, but you have all this space down here. And then we have a Gigabyte GTX 660, the WindForce, just fitted in there. And also to show you the EPS power connectors, the way they notched out this portion of the bracket underneath the motherboard tray, so you can actually just bring the cables up and through and not have to take them around the outside. That's just very nice. And I also put in here just a small, simple little reservoir, an EK reservoir and a pump base. There's no pump on that right now, but that would be a space you could put a pump. Certainly you can put them down underneath here. Or mount them vertically, hanging them off of the rig. And we have a brand new Black Ice Nemesis GTX 360 there. And then coming around to this side, we have a bunch of Cougar Vortex fans mounted on the Nemesis. And then down here below, we have some cabling. I didn't really do any tightening of the cables, but you see I have the hard disk mounted right there inside of the hard disk mounting carrier. And then we also have the SSD mounted underneath the motherboard tray, and it is does have the power cable connected to it. So they have designed a very functional, very flexible system to be able to mount quite a bit of components inside of your test bench. So basically it's up to your imagination how you need to configure it. So there you have it. This is the Mercury S8 test bench from CASELABS. Outstanding construction and quality, very flexible, very spacious, common screws and parts to be able to mount the various brackets and options that you have. Everything from a basic air-cooled setup to a exotic water-cooled setup you can do in this test bench. As you can see that I mounted a couple of radiators there, but if you didn't want to have a radiator set in the front bay and wanted to use that for a DVD drive or maybe a reservoir, single or dual bay reservoir, well, you have the capability to do that. Certainly plenty of space to mount tube reservoirs and all kinds of controllers. The motherboards take everything from your micro ATX all the way up to the SSB style if you needed that, and everything in between. So again, high quality construction. It's everything that I would expect from a CASELABS case, and having the flexibility to be able to set it up in an open air setup is great, and I appreciate that. And then flexibility for customizing to your taste. Again, you go to the website and there are a bunch of options. I think I described them all to you during the review, but it's very easy to pick and choose what you want. The cost of the base of this test bench is $249.95, basically $250, but you get something that's going to last you quite a long time, and it provides you with a tremendous amount of flexibility. And in those of you that may not like this gunmetal gray, which I actually happen to love, you can get black, white, primer gray, or the gunmetal gray, or any two-tone combination of those. So, but again, go to the CASELABS website to put a link in the information window below. So help yourself if you like to take a look at them and peruse the website, and maybe this test bench is just for you. So I hope you guys liked this review. If you did, please like and favorite, and if you're so inclined, please subscribe. That's it from Ron's and Nut. Thanks for watching.